situated. So, like John said, my name's Tyler Wieland. I'm a Nebraska student. It's interesting because I have a background in ophthalmology. I used to be an ophthalmic imaging specialist, taking pictures and ultrasounds of eyes every day. So now I'm about to graduate with a degree in perfusion science, but I'll actually be talking to you mostly about web development and education. So you get to listen to someone with an ophthalmology background going into perfusion, talking about completely different topics. So I'll talk about a development of a multi-generational wiki for perfusion education. I'd like to thank Devika Prasanth, my classmate, Scott Sanderson, our new program director at Nebraska, and David Holtz, our former program director. All right, so today I'll be talking to you about wikis. You'll hear all about them, what's great about them, what's not great about them, and then we'll get into our perfusion wiki and a survey that we did about it. So what exactly is a wiki? A wiki is a web development platform that allows you to quickly add, delete, and edit content. That's exactly where its name comes from, its ability to be quick compared to normal websites. Wiki means quick in Hawaiian, which is where its name comes from. And overall, a wiki is a web tool that is collaboratively created, edited, and maintained by its own users. It's typically focused on one idea. For example, Wikipedia, I think everyone is familiar with it, is a wiki centered around being an online encyclopedia. Our goal with Perfusion Wiki is to be a wiki focused on the topic of perfusion for everybody. We'll talk about the advantages and disadvantages of wikis. One great thing about them is that they're easily accessible. All you need is an internet connection and some type of device to access it, and you can get it from anywhere, which is very beneficial for perfusionists who are commonly away from computers and ORs, or anybody in the medical field, for example. It's very easy to contribute information. That's basically the goal of a wiki, to make its users have the ability to add and edit content at will. For example, Wikipedia, its users can make changes, and anybody can actually make a change, but they have so many contributors that they're constantly going through this content. Just like Wikipedia, you know that it's very easily searchable. I know I personally spent hours going down a rabbit hole of a topic that's interesting and searching it, linking all the pages to it, and clicking through those links, learning more and more about it. That's ultimately the goal of wikis and what we want with Perfusion Wiki. And finally, wikis allow for collaborative reviews of content. Like I mentioned, with all these users constantly having eyes on these pages, things that get added can get edited very quickly, and hopefully over time, and as has been proven with Wikipedia, with enough people and with enough eyes, that this content gets more and more accurate. Some disadvantages is that since anyone can edit, there's always potential for spam and vandalism. All someone really has to do is go to the wiki and start to delete content, and this is a problem. But thankfully, some wiki engines allow for moderators to quickly revert these spam and vandalisms. Wikis may be difficult to use for non-technical users. I think people take for granted technology nowadays and assume that everybody will be able to use it without any trouble. But that just might be too far of an assumption, and we have to keep in mind that it takes time to learn some of these things. Like I mentioned, wikis require frequent moderation. This, of course, also takes time, and perfusionists as a whole are usually pretty busy people. And finally, there might be a diffusion of responsibility when it comes to making these additions and edits to the pages. With so many people, they might think that others are going to make the changes, make the additions necessary. And if everybody does that, then nothing gets changed and nothing gets done. I'd like to talk about Wiki's potential in educational and clinical settings. Curry and colleagues in 2003 published a study finding that there is unmet clinical information needs across multiple areas of care. These, of course, require solutions. And these areas of care were a general care unit, a coronary care unit, and a surgical nurses station. But I think it's fair to say that across the medical field as a whole, it'd be more beneficial to have information at our fingertips for when these unmet information needs come across us, and they happen. Wikis are great because they're low cost, they're scalable, so as pages continue to be added, it's really easy for the web platforms to keep up with it, and they're adaptable since they continually change. Since science is continually changing and being revised and advanced, wikis can change with that too. It's great for wikis because it's easy to organize and share educational content with administrators. It's kind of great if you have a one-stop shop for administrators and students to go to find all their information needs with Perfusion, or for even simple things like class info, like syllabi. David Holt had a website called Clinical Perfusion Education Notebook that all the Nebraska students used. Basically all of our lectures, all of our study tools, that's where they were found. Students and educators could post stuff there, and we know where to find it. The only problem was that it was, sorry David, but it's not the prettiest of websites you've ever seen. It's a plain HTML format website, basically just text, and wikis I think are better for organizing this type of information, and I think that'd be a potential way to go in the future. And then of course, it's always great to increase access, collaboration, and sharing of information in the field of perfusion as a whole. And that's what we want with wikis. Just a few examples of current wikis today. There's a wiki for the genetics of rice, which is very specific, but kind of interesting if you go to it. One for hematology and oncology drugs, emergency medicine, and more. You can go to those websites today, learn more about those different types of fields. I think it'd be great if we had one for perfusion that people could come across and learn more. So this is Perfusion Wiki. This is what we've created. This is the main page. It's just a screenshot of it though. If you go to www.unmcperfusionwiki.org, you can go to this website today and kind of check out what we have. There's still a lot more that we'd like to add. There's only kind of the bare bones of information. There's so much out there in perfusion and so much that needs to be added. But right now we have information on drugs. You can go to the drug index on the top left page. There's a page for perfusionist calculations that is interesting, and anyone that needs a refresher can go to there. Eventually we'd like to have everything on cardiac anatomy on the front page. You can just click on that link and learn more about the heart. And I think it'd be extremely useful to have a cannula index with pressure drop charts. That way if you're in the OR and need to look up something really quick, all you have to do is go there. So we have the basic building blocks. It takes a lot of time to add this information. There's just so much out there, and I'm only one person. So hopefully over time, once more people know about this or would be more interested in contributing, we'll get more information on this wiki. So let's talk about this little alpha test we did. An alpha test was conducted in November of this past year. We wanted to know what users thought about Perfusion Wiki and its weaknesses and strengths. If you don't know what an alpha test is, it's a trial of machinery, software, or other products carried out by the developer before a product is made available to beta test. We decided to do this alpha test before the wiki itself was completely complete. We didn't want others to have trouble with the wiki in case it was hard to use. And of course, like I said, it takes a lot of time to add all this content, so we just wanted to get some opinions on it before it was too late, before it wasn't functional. We gave the survey to 42 potential candidates that are currently enrolled in the University of Nebraska Clinical Perfusion Education Program. We got 14 responses back, and they remained anonymous throughout the test. The survey was voluntary. Anybody could have done it or not done it, and the alpha tests were asked via email to access the wiki, to search the site, and create a page if they'd like, and then answer this survey. These were our survey questions. I'm not going to go through all of them just for the sake of time, since 15 minutes goes by pretty quickly, but I'll highlight a few important ones. Question 2 was, how easy was it to create a page on Perfusion Wiki? We got kind of a bunch of various results. No one in particular stood out. The most common one was it'll take a few uses to master the site, and I think this is expected. It's a new piece of technology that most people have no history with. Some people needed more time to learn how to use the site, maybe a demonstration, and some people felt confident that they could use it right away. Question 4 was, how useful will a completed version of Perfusion Wiki be to you? And I think the responses were overwhelmingly positive, with all 13 of the 14 people saying that it was very useful or extremely useful, which is a great sign. We want the wiki to fulfill a certain niche in the perfusion field, and if it's not useful, then no one will contribute to it, and then the wikis are useless at that point. Question 5 was, how likely are you to continue contributing to Perfusion Wiki on your own time? And I think overall it was very positive. Most people said they were somewhat likely or likely to continue contributing to the wiki, which is also a good sign since we need that base of contributors to make the wiki what it is. And then question 6 was, would you be more likely to contribute to Perfusion Wiki if you were provided with recognition for your contribution? And this is kind of a hot topic in the wiki community. A lot of these scientific wikis, it's shown that it would be more likely for others to contribute if they got recognition for their contributions, which is kind of contradictory to what the students that responded to our survey said. But I think this could be attributed to the fact that students in general probably aren't looking for recognition at this point in their careers, whereas a more established perfusionist would maybe want to get their name out there more. So let's talk about this. Does authorship matter? Rashid and colleagues did a study in 2006, and they did find that users more likely to contribute if their contributions were recognized. These are a few examples of wikis that have tried to do this. Hemonc.org has a section editor heading on every page, and you can see the doctor's name and their institution right at the top, and you know who contributed to the wiki and made this page. Wikigenes is another one. Each section, you can see exactly who contributed to the article with their name at the bottom. So that begs the question, and maybe some future studies, is individual authorship recognition necessary? So overall, more work will be required in increasing interest in contributions because that's what wikis need. We need all the contributors that we can get. And it'll be important to increase the ease of access to page creation, formatting, and troubleshooting. We want people that stumble across our site and are interested in contributing to have an easy time to do it because if they have trouble, it might drive them away. We found some strengths is that everybody thought the wiki was useful and that a completed version would be useful to the field as a whole. Everybody found it easy to access and that would be beneficial. I just wanted to highlight a few potential difficulties with this project, even in the future. A study in 2009 by Jalali and colleagues, they created a wiki for first-year medical students, and this wiki was not frequently used and kind of fell apart in the end. They found in focus groups that participants had a difficult time accessing the wiki, which is obviously a problem. The wiki content did not meet the students' needs, so if the students had no reason to go to it, there's no reason for them to check it out and contribute to it. And then finally, students were not confident in their knowledge, and they didn't feel they were able to contribute to the wiki and what was needed. And I think this is really interesting because all the students that I surveyed, they didn't really create too many pages, and I feel like this might be one of the reasons why. I know as a first-year student, when I started this project, I felt like I knew some things about perfusion, but I had hardly pumped any cases myself. So it's hard to really put information out there, especially as difficult as this field can be, and have others read it and be afraid that it's not good enough. So a few things that could be done to make the wiki more useful that the students said, that if it was integrated into existing web tools, they would have been more likely. If there was more quantity on it, they'd be more likely to use it. And if that content was targeted to faculty learning objectives, they would have been more likely. So if there's ever a wiki in the educational field, one of these program directors decides it's a good idea, I think these are some things to keep in mind. So in the future, this is what we're hoping to do with Perfusion Wiki. I could see it going in two directions. One would be an internal wiki used solely for the University of Nebraska Perfusion program. Our director, Scott, if he thinks this is a good idea, could put everything he needs, all the syllabi, all the content for the students' lectures, everything could be found here, but it would not be open to the public. It'd just be a place for him to kind of distribute information just for students and for students to go and add stuff that they'll be studying about and add to these pages. The other option is a public wiki open to all perfusionists, which I think is the more interesting option. We'd have more people on the wiki. We'd have hopefully more information created and added to the wiki. And I think this would be really beneficial to the field as a whole. When I was a first-year perfusion student, I will say it was extremely hard to find content that's out available on the web when you're trying to learn about this. And just having a wiki where everything's kind of centered in one area, I think it'd be really important. That way you don't have to scour Google Scholar and find some really obscure studies about the stuff that we do. In the future, once there's more content, we of course want to run a beta test, get opinions of maybe some practicing perfusionists, some more people, and learn what people think about it, if it really is all it's cracked up to be. And then finally, I'd like to do some more studies in the future. There are some studies on other wikis to show the growth of over time on the pages that are added, on the web traffic that come to the website. I think that'd be really interesting to see if Perfusion Wiki will grow as well. And these are my references for the PowerPoint. This is what we talked about today, and that's everything. If you have any feedback for me, I put my email. My Nebraska email is probably going to be closed pretty soon once we graduate, so feel free to email me on my main Gmail email. And I'd love to have any questions or feedback, please. Thank you very much.